Hello and welcome to Clawful Evil Probable Claws, a show where we discuss Wildbow's most handiwork. I'm your very villainous hostess, Vice Versailles.
And I'm your conniving hostess, Kipos. In this debriefing, we're covering Chapter 5 of Arc 5, The Quick. And oh my fucking god.
I have arranged my thoughts and written them out because I felt the need to.
I think please go ahead and read that out because I think it's well written.
I think reading a story can sometimes make you callous by proxy. If you skim, or you don't quite scan a sentence as intended, something gets lost in translation or distraction, you can land somewhere south of sympathetic or north of numb. We've certainly had our share of that recording our thoughts here, and a writer can only get so far with that natural resistance. Even something done right and done well can miss the mark, because readers are moving targets. So, it's a testament to Wildbow's craft that this chapter has had a universal, visceral response of revulsion. I haven't seen a single comment that wasn't touched by, "This made me sick," and "I want Davy dead." There's hitting the target, and then there's incinerating the firing range.
Yeah, I mean, Wildbow nailed this chapter. It's so good in the worst way. Look, this is something I have talked to a little bit about, like the one person I know that's reading along. And that is, Wildbow does villain moments so well. And this is like our first really proper villain moment from Claw, and he's fucking nailed it. And Davy is so brilliant here. He's so terrifying. He's so evil in like so many ways. He's just fantastic. I literally just finished my reread of the chapter like half an hour ago maybe. And so I'm still kind of reeling from everything, but it's fucked. Like, it's so brutal and cruel. And it's like, nobody expected this, right? Like, you know, obviously last chapter we learned like that, you know, oh, he's already taken a piece from Ripley. And it's like, that's already horrifying. But then like you read that and you think, like, okay, he's taken a finger. Yeah, exactly.
Because that way you can go one finger, then the next finger. It's a conservative play, but he's a real liberal-minded man, Davey. He really goes for the big picture.
I feel like a lot of us like have our expectations built by things like crime movies and stuff. And I feel like, you know, the severed finger is like the classic crime movie thing that you know, to show that you're serious, to show that you have the hostage and you're willing to hurt them, is you take a finger. And like, that's fucked. Yeah, like obviously that's horrible to take a finger. And so that's kind of what we were like almost primed for just by the existence of other media, is, you know, you expect a token basically. And we get in, and almost straight away we see Ripley's arm, not only her arm but her her dominant arm floating in the cooler. And it's like, holy shit, it's so much more than you ever could have imagined. You know, I wouldn't even have said he took a piece. I would say he took a chunk. Like, yeah, it's so brutal.
I took multiple sittings to read this.
That's so reasonable.
And my dear friend has sent me a chaos of text messages along the lines of "Oh God, oh fuck, oh no, oh why," to which I concur entirely.
It's pretty relatable. Yeah.
Well, let's get the chapter summary out of the way. And if it wasn't clear enough, content warnings all. In
we're going to talk about the chapter. Sorry, we're going to talk about the chapter. So like that's your content warning. Talking about 5.5.
We're talking about 5.5, and if you struggled with that, just hold your finger over the pause button and be glad that you have an arm.
Yeah.
In 5.5, Ripley is nigh delirious with pain because her mom will get out of her room and leave her alone. Oh, and her arm has been ripped off, which is hardly fair. after bearing the brunt of Arlo's abuse, he's almost as bad as Miss Garvey. Natalie gives her a hand via the old mirror for your mirror neurons trick. They talk friends, books, hobbies, and Ripley asks her to promise to spend more time crafting a better life for Sterling. Davy parades the pair in front of his partners, droning on about tough love over dinner. He kidnaps the mayor's son, Brian, and has Natalie punched in the gut for not having enough zazz. But Carla provides a fork for Ripley to pick the handcuffs with. They meet the rest of Davy's victims, and what's this? It's Natalie Teal with a steel crowbar! Still trapped in Davy Drones' locker, Ripley resolves to implement a magic trick.
Yeah, and I mean, like, hype ending, honestly. Hype, stressful ending, yeah. Look, I have some things in the chronological notes here about what's happened there, but I do want to point out that Vivi has written fair with a capital Fare in that chapter summary. She's making a little pun.
Thank you.
Like, that's just not going to come through. Like, yeah, and I feel like most of them come through, but I feel like that one would be difficult to see without, like, being able to see it. So I'm just giving you the
Well, thank you for paying attention to that one. Get it? Because it's a fair. Anyway, okay. I'm most proud of Davy Drones' locker because that's
pretty good.
I was there on that one for about 5 minutes, just going, there's something here. But
no, I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
Hey, look, that Fair book sounds cool. Hold on, no, let's talk about Fair. Yeah, Fair sounds really cool. I hope Wildbow writes Fair. Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Maybe we shouldn't talk about Fair. Because, like, I'm thinking, like, let's distract ourselves from the horror that was this. And then I remember, like, she was thinking about Fair when, like, body parts were removed and how, like, that came up in that book. I'm like, actually, maybe it's just as horrifying as Claw.
Well, but
it sounds fun.
It's got magic in it, and soul bonding, and
so cool.
It would be nice. There's this. I pulled a quote from the Discord. From a user called Feathers, and the reference to Fair seems contiguous with reference to Pale, and Feathers really put the thoughts there in easy line of one of the most gut-wrenching parts about this is that Ripley is probably the best person in this serial, full of maturity, ingenuity, and life. You can totally see her being a Wildbow protagonist in a situation where she has more agency. But she is given this fate through factors entirely out of her control, and you have to watch this girl's bright potential get damaged without her even getting to do anything about it before it happens. So Ripley is reaching for this world of magic, the world of steampunk, like all the stories that have given her comfort. And the reason that they are comforting is ultimately because they are worlds where she would have some autonomy even here, where there would be means for her to fight back. And if you're looking for that, there's Pale. It's another Wildbow book. We can probably plug those with safety. I feel like it's really lining up the nail just so that you, when it's hammered in just how bad the situation is, we really catch Ripley's hope on the way down.
It's brutal. The way that she's shown to be such a good person and so, like, obsessed with the idea of, like, Natalie being a good mum to Sterling and, like, helping, like, trying to fix her mistakes in the future. Like, fuck me. Like, my heart. It's just hard. Like, it was a hard read, this chapter, and I think that's a universal experience with this chapter because it's just brutal. Like, it's a fantastic chapter, but it's just fucked. And Ripley is just the saddest little kid. And you just want to protect.
In our BS predictions last week, I was expecting a Bendemption arc, which could happen, but I think really here possible. we get sort of Natalie's redemption arc.
She does pretty good here. She tries her best.
It's not just that she tries her best, it's that she demonstrates that what she has really been doing all these years is constantly trying.
That's true.
The moments where she is knocked down and truly injured and insulted. None of that stops her from continuing to try her best for Ripley. There's a lot of critique to deliver for someone's execution, but I don't think we can say anything for her persistence, because
no, absolutely,
she pulls through sheer endurance.
I think I've pulled out two things in this chapter to like be like, girl, come on, like you can do better. But like that's the lowest so far, and like, obviously I'm ragging on her, but like she's in a horrible situation. I'm not like really ragging on her, in these cases. It's like, you fucking wouldn't see me do any better.
No, I don't think it's humanly possible to handle the situation well.
No, absolutely it's not. It's horrible.
Like, what would that look like, even? Ripley, the creative, well-read, can barely expand her mind enough to even conceive of a situation where this is good, and she immediately has to leave reality behind.
And there's that moment where Natalie like tries to hold her hand, and she just like viscerally like flinches and like yells at her, and it's like, that's just fucking heartbreaking. Like, it's heartbreaking for both of them that, they can't get and give support to each other in this way because Ripley is so fucked up by everything that's happened. And and like a part of it is like, maybe if Natalie had dealt with things in the hospital better, like Ripley would be able to have her hand held and get comfort from someone. But because of the way that things went down, she doesn't feel comfortable, and it sucks. So
I think there's another
my last week's.
Oh, of course,
on, sorry,
no. We'll have plenty of time to talk about Natalie. I want to hear what you think of your prediction, because I think it was very bold and specific, and that's what we go for.
It was pretty, yeah. So my last week's BS prediction was that after this, Ben and Ryder will grab Mum, kill Phil, go down to the pub, and wait for all of this to blow over. And I'll be honest, they haven't done it yet, but I'm hopeful. It could happen.
It could happen. I don't know who Phil is, but I guess he's a problem. Yeah, well, so I hope they get him. Maybe that's the doctor's name. In which case, Natalie's well ahead.
Maybe. Mia had already crafted a new identity for Davy, and that was Phil. So
we got Davey him, everybody.
Yeah, perfect. And Mum is Natalie. I think this is lining up. I think this is going to be true.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Speaking of Davy.
Oh God, do we have to?
I think we do. I think that's what we signed up for, actually.
I think it is. It's so brutal. Yeah.
I pulled two sets of quotes, one under our reveals heading, another under questions answered heading. The first for reveals, Davies has this quote: "Well said, Camellia. That man who raised you, degenerate criminal as he might be, he definitely instilled some of that zazz in you."
So good.
I don't know what zazz is. It sounds the same as Riz. Zazz. And it's this moment.
It sounds like spunk or moxie,
Yeah. He digs the cut of your jib.
But
je ne sais
quoi. I'm gonna start using zazz. I think.
But
zazz is happening.
Davy is making a world where he's engineering a hostile takeover of every platform of power and structure, and that he's really going for like emperor of this area. And he's the kind of guy that says zazz, and so he is going to make it happen. He's going to make it happen on penalty of death. Like I'm almost tempted to start using it out of fear. Maybe Mr. Matthew Mosley, next time that he addresses his constituents about being elected for governor, is gonna talk about that he has the zazz.
If he has any intelligence, he will. I mean, it's really, I mean, like, okay, so we're talking about like the guests, and it's so perfect the way that, like, people like this, who are, people who have positions of power, will turn to groups like, for example, fascists, and say, like, you are supporting us, like, but we can still control this situation. Like, we're still in power. And they still think that up until this exact moment where they get the summons and they all come and they don't have a choice. And yeah, like Davy just has them completely. Like he says, he owns them, like, yeah, it's, yeah.
I think it's got a collection.
Yeah.
Mr. Matthew Mosley,
he does.
the head of the state military, Pat Conway, chief of our police force, which is about to lift a long, long strike and help bring things to order, Michael Fuentes, Rudy Laspata, council chairman of Rules and Order, and Andre Chico, who runs our power plants and serves our energy needs. Look at my little society that I've made. It's the people that are in charge, and they're mine.
Yeah, it's so evil. It's like such a perfect coup that it encapsulates like every position of power that really matters in this area.
But Kippos, he's doing it for love.
He is doing it for love. He's doing it so that they will love him. And it's so, yeah. I don't know. It's really interesting. Yeah. But it's good. He's so perfectly evil in this chapter. He's just so perfect in this chapter. I don't know. I really loved Davy in this chapter. He's such a fucking evil bastard. And it's just everything that we needed, basically. He nails his villain moments, and he has an endless amount of them all through the chapter. Every moment he's in the chapter is his villain moment. Yeah, he's so perfect.
I'm imagining one of those like social media edits where like the character will deliver their really quotable line, and then you'll just get like some mug shots with some dramatic music, and like their villain edit, and then instead of having a villain edit, it's just the entire time that Davy's on screen.
Yeah, it's the entire.
The music never fades in. It's just the entire episode.
He's so good. Yeah, it makes me a little sad that we haven't got that much Davy up until this point, because he's so perfect here. But at the same time, I don't know, I think it's also good that he was brought out sparingly until near the end here, where he can be the big villain. Yeah, he's so, yeah. I don't know. I just want to keep on saying that he's perfect, because he is perfect here. It's so perfectly evil, so collected in his, like, in the way that he is communicating. He's very specific and careful about the way he communicates. And he's, when he's talking to the mayor, he does the same thing that he did with Valentina when she was Geo, where everything will be friendly, and then it'll be like, stop fucking around. Like, I own you. I don't give a fuck. Sit down. Like, you're being a bad guest. Sit down. And then he sits down. And then Davy goes back to, oh, wasn't that great? Like, we're so glad that you would, sit down and yada yada. Like, he's so great at just like code switching between like, I am the gracious host and motherfucker, I told you to sit down. Like, yeah, like he has that balance of how to deal with people just like nailed down. And it's fucking terrifying. And it's fucking amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So, shall we do beat by beat?
Yeah, sure.
There's some great beats in here. So first thing I've pulled out here is, about Ripley, swearing. Natalie says, oh, I remember, telling me, it's etched into my mind. I wasn't telling you, Ripley said. I was telling everyone there. Who cares what's etched into your mind? And it's like, fuck, it's so, like, you just feel so bad for Ripley because, in all of these other chapters where she's talked about how much she doesn't like saying these kinds of things, like, it makes her feel sad and feel bad to be mean to someone else, which is something that she's continuously talked about, and feeling like she almost has to with Natalie sometimes. And it's just here, she's just kind of automatically doing it. And it's like, it's so horrible because we know she doesn't like that. She doesn't like to be mean. She doesn't like to say things that are going to cause people harm. Yeah. And then, so, I mean, eyes screwed shut. She focused on breathing. The deep breaths became sounds. The last few got higher pitched. And it's just like, she's just like slipping into a panic attack. As soon as she is not thinking about, like, as soon as she tries to take her mind off it and just focus on breathing, she just starts slipping into panic. And it's so, yeah.
You've pulled a quote that I'd rather not be read of Arlo like slapping over the ground.
Yeah, well, like this is because like Natalie does this great thing here where she's seeing how much this is fucking Ripley up, and like she's moving between Ripley and the stump because she doesn't want her to look at it, and obviously that's like stressing Ripley out more. So she's just like, fucking move it out of the way, like cover it up. You don't have to see it. And then obviously Arlo comes in and beats her. And so Ripley, gets slapped and she falls and hit the seat, bouncing a bit off before hitting the floor. She wanted to catch herself with her hands and bumped the bandage stump against the floor. The sound she made didn't sound like it came from her. And it's just like, fucking hell, Wildbow. Like, this entire section is just so sad and horrific and heartbreaking. Like, oh, it's so miserable and so violent against, two people that cannot protect themselves. I don't know.
Throughout this, Natalie is fumbling because there is no answer. And
she's fucking trying her best.
And Ripley as a burn wound. There's no way. Even if you were very, very precise and very accomplished, there's no way to handle this. But I think there is a consistent beat of Natalie encroaching to try and help Ripley, and Ripley not being ready for anything. So like the moments of like being touched for or covering her eyes with a t-shirt. The one thing that I would have asked of Natalie in this is asking first, because I don't really think she does.
No, she doesn't. The only time she does is like with the therapy, therapy thing, which she kind of needs to do to be able to do that.
And the thing is, she also doesn't ask Ripley if it's okay for her to stand up for her and body block this monster of a man. She doesn't ask Ripley if it's okay for Natalie to put her life on the line and like stick her neck out for Ripley's sake. And there is this long-term criticism of a beat that Ripley is hitting in this chapter in the form of the soul bonding thing. This long-term criticism of Natalie of behaving as though Ripley is a part of her. A part that needs to be protected, sheltered, and is precious, but is also very much a extension or a possession. And obviously that kind of thing is a lot easier to believe as a person is not really a person or an individual in your mind. And I think we see that mentality begin to terminate here, because in this scenario, it's not only something that is like annoying or something that is frustrating, but something that is painful. So when Natalie is, we have these beats in Ripley's mind of like, you're so awful for protecting me, essentially. You're so awful for providing this narrative to try and manipulate Davy. And then Natalie provides having provided the mirror neuron trick to get the pain of dissonance to go away. That is marked with actually asking. And the chapter ends with them cooperating to get first the fork, then the tithes, then to undo the cuffs. And, trauma bonding is a real thing. I think the persistence that defines Natalie and the possessiveness that is worthy of criticizing her are starting to, like, the former is starting to win out against the latter. And I really think that she's coming away from this having a trial by fire in a better dynamic with Ripley.
I mean, I fucking hope so. I hope so. It's because she's doing, I mean, like you said, she's not doing the right things here, but they're like, the right thing here is for Natalie to not be there and for Mia to be there and for her to get a big hug, basically, and sob for like 6 hours into his arm. Like, that's that's what she needs right now.
I think if you're moving in those variables, I would just go for the simple variable of it would be great if Ripley weren't in this situation.
Yeah, if she still had her arm, that would obviously that would be better. But yeah, like there's nothing that Natalie can do, and there are things that she could do here, like you said, like asking for consent, that would really fucking help. But it's so, like, I am willing to extend Natalie a lot more. This time, I'm willing to extend Natalie a lot more benefit of the doubt here, because this is such a fucked experience. And, like, this is a fucked experience where Natalie has not done the thing that is fucking Ripley up, which is what has happened in the previous times where Ripley has been in fucked situations, when Natalie is not, like, the antagonist so much here. So thinking that she can extend the sympathy makes sense. Mind, it turns out Ripley kind of blames her for the whole thing. And it's not, it's kind of harsh. It's hard. Like, I think they're both doing their best in this situation. And I think Natalie is doing a lot better than she has done previously. And speaking of Ripley doing amazingly, whatever happens, she said, changing directions, going around that unfinished thought, you need to get back to Sterling because he's cool, cute. He's a cool, cute little kid. He needs a mum, so you gotta do better. Play with him, meet him where he's at. You gotta, and it's like, Ripley, you're such a fucking angel of a child. Like, you poor fucking kid. Like, thinking like you are going to die 100%. So Natalie has to survive and look after her kid.
Honestly, it was this in particular that before we have the lockpicking scene at the end where Ripley imagines Carson calmly explaining the process to her, and that brings her some of the focus she needs. This reminded me of Carson's bleak attitude in his chapter where he was ready to die if Mia was okay. And that is in an adult, that is a strange, warped loyalty that indicates a degree of like suicidal ideation that is very dark. But here, the dark part is just how bright Ripley is being to still have that sort of heart in her. She really just wants better for Sterling. She wants so much for herself that she believes she can't get, and this is her. Like, well, if I can't have this, and I can't have that, and I can't have that, and I can't have that, I would love it if you were a better mom to the kid that you do have.
It's so fucked.
There's something to say about Claw's bigger themes here. And it's something that Davy will pervert later. So I think we'll get back to that. And I mean, like, it was kind of heartbreaking again for Sterling, like having that, like looking at that discussion and just seeing like the way that Natalie is not engaging with the things that Sterling cares at all. And it sucks. And I mean, like, you know, Natalie says like, oh, you've got like a warped perspective, because your parents are rich, because they're like criminals and rich. Like, I can't afford to like fly out to Texas or whatever. But like Ripley has a great point of like get this kid some fucking art, you know, like check with the artist if you have, and be like, I am like too poor to pay for this. Go on. Sorry, I think we're on a bad latency today because I hear you cut out every once in a while.
Oh god.
Just a forewarning if it continues to be toe stepping. But the thing that Ripley is trying to emphasize is that what she valued from Mia is something that Natalie specifically didn't provide. She got her goodbye with that friend that moved away, thanks to Mia, and she didn't get her goodbye with Devon, thanks to Natalie. And in her mind, that is, in her mind, the key element is the connection to community, and the things that are not material, not monetary, but human connection, which in turn is the thing that Natalie has struggled with her whole life. And lost in a major way. And it is also, to a significant degree, what Mia has taken from her. Because we have Carson emphasizing the Hearst household as a place to stay, a home, of a place of stability, a shelter, a community. And Mia has provided that for Ripley. Carson has provided that for Ripley. And Natalie might have, if she had ever had the chance, and instead she spent a decade trying to get a second chance for it.
Yeah, and in that she's failed to provide it to Sterling.
In the course of that distraction, which you see how Mia can be at fault for that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
In Ripley's mind, no such complexity.
No, in Ripley's mind, it's 100% Natalie's fault.
Simple experience. This is the differences from my point of view. I'm 11. I'm this tall. I'm looking up at the world, and you gave me the nice thing. You didn't give me the nice thing, and I think Ripley is maybe onto something important. But it's that element that Davy will pervert further on.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of the goodbyes, I wanted to roast Natalie first before we move on to that. So
I'm so sorry. If you were ready to move on, that's fine. But I highlighted the final critique.
Yeah. So Natalie says there's more to it. I've had bad experiences when I was your age with boys, and then you being missing. I spent so long thinking about what might have happened. I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't get away from what had happened to me or what I thought might have happened to you. And it's like she's talking about that, like when she was splitting Ripley and Devon up. But like, girl, you are so smug. Like, you were the smuggest, like, piece of shit when, like, you told Devon to get off the bed with Ripley. Like, don't act like, you know, you are, like, horrified by it, yada yada. Like, yeah. Just the smugness, I think, is like, I don't know if you can really get away with that sentence there, Natalie. Just based on how smug you were. I don't know.
Her Karen PTA kind of voice of there's smugness projected and there's smugness felt. I think a lot of Natalie is a defense mechanism to
I think that's true.
A central pain. I'm not sure if I hold that against her. It's throughout this talking to Ripley, she can't escape I statements. That's the plan. I'm hoping, especially as we've talked, that you'll want to stay in touch on some level, even if you want to stay at Sean's, and Sean agrees. Even if you want to go stay with someone you don't know who may or may not want you there, she's struggling to leave her frame of reference.
She almost can't. You know, it's not like she can't even imagine Ripley wanting to go back to Mia and Carson because they're evil. You know, they stole her away. But even then, like, she can't accept the fact that they like loved her and cared about her. And I get it, you know, like, it's hard, like, obviously, okay, like, I'm roasting her a bit for it here, but, like, obviously, these are the people that kidnapped her daughter that she has been, like, horrifiedly thinking about for the last decade. Like, of course, she's, you know, she thinks they're monsters. I can't blame her for that, but at the same time, like, the idea that Ripley would just be like, yes, I'll go to this person who I've never met before, and who you are saying in this sentence, like, may or may not want me. Like, fucking hell. Like, yeah. Why would she want that?
Ripley is constantly trying to emphasize to Natalie the importance of rapport to her, and establishing a connection and a better life. And Natalie hasn't had that. And, you know, it takes a lot of energy to extend empathy, and they're both on zero. I wish this conversation were happening in a much better place, because I really think it's within both their abilities to consider each other's stance better than this. But as it is, it's just the rough parts bashing against each other.
It's just friction, and it sucks. They are both going through hell right now, especially Ripley.
I think I've done my best to hold it off, but this is the part where we get to Davy.
Yay!
I love this first quote.
Yeah, this one was sus. Or are you looking at a different quote? Yeah, this one. So like Davey talking about like Mia and Carson, and he's like, I was trying to figure out who they were, where they lived, what they were doing, and why. And up until a judge I own reached out to me, I had no idea. And I'm like, wait, the judge would have reached out like when they had Ripley, but you already knew where they lived at that point. So the fuck is this judge? I don't know. Maybe it's just like a mistake with how it's written, or like it's just unclear, and that's totally fine if so. But like, did the judge like start this shit? Like, what the fuck?
I'm unclear if it's an error.
Yeah,
because it might be a timeline error of it's referring to the judge that Ben and Ryder alerted, and that was how he caught Ripley and Natalie. So the phrasing is meant to be more like, I was trying to figure out that like something more urgent than who they were and where they lived, like the during this fighting, rather than like their establishment beforehand. Then there's the reciprocal that in regards to that establishment, it was a judge that alerted him. But either way, it's this casual, I was trying to figure it out. It was a bit of a mystery. But then there was this judge that I own.
Yeah, it's definitely some specific wording. And
it's at just the back of the sentence. He reached out to me. I had no idea. Thank goodness I own him.
Thank goodness this person is a tool in my toolbox that is like autonomous and will reach out to me to offer up help.
How very useful.
It's pretty bad.
We've considered Davy as the ultimate dragon in the sense that he hoards. And the fact that he even thinks of the people that he hoards and the people that he controls as his, as in owned by him, is it turns so much of any moment of communication and apparent civility is warped by that knowledge that his understanding of others is as possessions.
It's so he really is the ultimate dragon, as outlined by, I hope Ophelia's crying is not coming up in the background. She is very hungry for lunch, and she's sucking about it. So then there's this great next quote where Davy's talking about having ripped off Ripley's arm. Oh, rip.
I love puns.
You do love puns.
I love puns so much.
And Davy says, like it's just business. And Natalie's response is, well, it's not business to me and it's not to her. And Davy goes, yeah, fair. And it's like, he's so like organized criminal brained that it's like, to him, like not only is it just business for him, but he expects other people that he's doing this kind of thing to understand that it's business. Like, for example, if we look right back to Arc 1, when he takes out the person that was handling Mia and Carson and their jobs, that was just business. And it, is understandable that it's just business. It's like part of the risks of getting into a business like that. But like to Natalie and Ripley, like they're innocent. Like it's not business to them. And it's so, I find it so interesting that he doesn't even consider what it's like to not be a part of this business, to the point that like it's genuinely surprising where someone is, saying, no, this is not just like you took her arm. That's not business. That's fucking horrible. Yeah. I think it's interesting.
It's this, the thing is, so much of him is an affected presence. He's doing it performatively. Or at least he has a maximal control over how he chooses to express himself. Very Carson in that manner.
Yes, absolutely.
And in my mind, he's presenting it affably, like, oh, I suppose that's fair. But in another way, it could almost be derogatory. Like, he is fully conscious of the kind of damage he is doing. He is fully aware that this is not someone, like, that he has done something horrible, and that this is not someone that has signed up for it. But the word fair sort of sits as like a, well, yeah, that is a fair assessment of this completely unfair scenario that I have intentionally constructed so that I can win, and without any mind to your needs, because I don't care about those things. So the word fair ends up being like a, yeah, fair, you idiot.
That's fair. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
There's a Ripley quote here.
Yeah, there sure is.
She wanted it more than anything to be folded into a big, strong hug and cry, and to talk about designing prosthetic arms with someone who understood engineering, to have Carson say all the right things and Tyr being cuddly like he always was when one of them was sick or hurt, and my heart breaks in 5 pieces.
Yeah, it's completely brutal. Like, Wildbow just has to take these moments in the middle of like this fucking horrible thing just to be like, to really twist that knife and be like, yeah, Ripley's really suffering right now. Here's like the family that she misses and loves. Like, and she's just thinking about how much she wants to be with her family. And it's like, oh my god, Wildbow, why are you doing this to us? It's so mean. There's this great Davy quote here, which, talking about, his kids says, I'd watch the nanny or my wife read to them. And it's like, it's so classic, like, patriarchal behavior in the sense of, like, not showing any personal, like, love and affection for your own children. Like, the children should be read to because that's what, kids get. But, like, will the man do it? No, a woman should, raise the children. It's not a man's job to raise the children.
Kippos, I need to adjust your phrasing here. You said, but will he lift a finger to actually parent, when he's clearly willing to lift entire hands and fists eventually?
Yeah, he'll lift an arm to parent, but not his own.
But whether or not that would be classified as parenting, I think we can equivocate on that. I mean, this is just dropped in the middle of the talk with the leaders.
Yes, it is.
Who he now owns.
Yeah.
And it really fits into this consistent beat of the people that characters in this setting disrespect being treated like children. And here he is heckling the manners of the mayor, because you're just like a child. Wait until the book ends before you ask questions. Don't you just stick around and read. And we'll get into that monologue when we get into the themes. But we can skip over to this threat that he delivers to Natalie.
First, I do want to bring something up that it's not in my chronological notes, and I'm so sorry, and it's actually from a little bit back. But I just realized, like, he's so Italian coded because, like, he just loves to gesticulate, like, with his hands, and even when his hands are holding something, he just uses that to gesture, like another person's hand. There are some great moments where he just uses Ripley's hand to gesture about things. It's really fucked up, and I just kind of remembered it. I should have written it in the notes. Classic Italian moment. Anyway.
Should we be reading these in bad Italian accents? I don't think so, but I want people to just imagine the sort of, salt shaker hand gesture.
So speaking of Italians and how they love to cook, Mamma mia, the arm on the table will be grilled.
Oh, you That's monster.
Pretty bad. I'm pretty sure we don't have any Italian listeners, and if we do, I'm so sorry. Please don't murder me. The arm on the table will be grilled. I will not be party
to this. The Kippos is making this decision.
Yeah, this is on my head. And you'll eat it. And if you don't get all the flesh from the bone, or if you make a mess of it, Natalie Teal, I'll have them cut off and cook her other arm, and we'll see if that goes down any easier. And it's like, God, fucking hell. This is so good. It's so evil. And it's so brutal, and it says so much that this is just a realistic threat. Like, I don't think anybody reading this chapter was like, read that and was like, oh, he wouldn't do that. It's like, oh God, like, she's gonna have to eat, like, the arm. And then obviously, like, he reveals, like, oh, I'm too busy right now and I wouldn't be able to enjoy it anyway, so I guess I won't do that. And it's like, fucking hell. Fucking hell. It's cruel, it's sadistic, it's perfect for a villain. Yeah. And speaking of cruel and sadistic,
just putting on some porn in the locker room.
Yeah, not even in the locker room, but in like the basement where all of the people are like not quite chained up, but you know, like where they're like strapped up and everything, like putting on like porn in front of them. So like that is the sound that you are hearing. Like that is what, if you have eyes, that's what you're seeing. And it's like, it's so perfectly cruel of like showing these people who have had their self-expression and their bodies like ripped away from like what is, you know, classically considered like, you know, like highly attractive, you know, bodies doing things that they can't do. And it was like these, like the cruelty of that, of like showing people who are in a situation that you've put them in where they do not have control over their own bodies, and like mutilating them, and then showing them people who are unmutilated, like enjoying each other's bodies. And it's like, I don't know, it's so over the top cruel for no reason. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just fucked. It's just fucked. Yeah.
Technically speaking, it's fucking, but
depends which side is. I guess one side is fucking, one side is fucked. I mean, it's horrible.
Natalie kills a man here.
Natalie straight up kills someone, basically twice. Like she like hits him in the throat, and you know, there's a moment of like he was getting weaker, fast, wheezing, and then a little bit later there was a metal sound, crowbar on skull. And it's like, you killed him twice. Like, his windpipe was crushed. He was dying. Like, he was asphyxiating. He could not breathe. That's why he was going for the pen to give himself what's the tracheotomy? I don't remember the exact term, but, you know, where you can stick a pen in your own neck, basically, to bypass the mouth to let air through. And then, like, going for a knife to do the same thing. So, like, he was going to die anyway, and then she brains him, and it's like, Jesus Christ. And I'm very glad that Ripley just reads that and it's like, he's unconscious and no longer wheezing. So that means he'll be A-okay in the future. Like, girl, he's dead. He's no longer wheezing because he's dead.
It's one thing to be no longer wheezing. It's another thing to have perished.
Yes. Yeah. It's, yeah.
I wanna dwell on this moment because last chapter, Ben kills people for the first time, and that it sends his brain into a tailspin if it wasn't already there. And I don't think that anyone cheered for it because it wasn't a triumphant moment. It was a push too far in terrible company moment. I would be willing to bet that most people after this chapter, which pretty much puts you in the sort of sympathetic way, like in the state that Ripley is in. I know a lot of people will stick to their stomachs, just like all those grizzled men at the table. I think this is much more liable to read victoriously. Like, oh great, now Natalie is a killer too. Because in her defense, the revenge being taken is a lot more personal. It's the true proper vengeance of, you maimed my child, so I will what else was there a proportional response to do? It is the sort of thing that someone who, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'm not really a very pro-violence woman. I still felt like cheering over this, just because I mean this is a monster that's getting knocked out and possibly killed, and it's hard to care.
A light way to put it. Yeah, it is hard to care. It's it's one of those things where you can look at everything that surrounds him and say, yeah, okay, he deserved it. Like, I get it. Not only do I get like why she swung the crowbar, but like I get why anyone would. It would be hard to make a case that this guy was like deserving of a second chance, which is kind of horrible to say. But yeah, I don't know. It's fucked. He's all of them together, like all of like Davy's doctors together and Davy have really created a living hell for people. And I don't think it's bad that they are stopped from doing that. In fact, like basically the first thing I thought when like
they could conceivably
when Natalie like got the knife
be like the angel of death.
They could be. But I don't know. Look, the first thing I thought when like Natalie got the knife was like, oh, thank God, like cut the power, you know, like let these people die because they're just in hell. And I don't know. It's a bad time. That basement is a little shop of horrors, and it needs to be destroyed. Yeah. So then there's this final moment at the end of the chapter, where Ripley notes like it was manipulative to change to Mia to give Natalie something she wanted, but if Natalie balked, if they took too long, this wouldn't work at all. And it's like this is such a hype ending. I'm like personally, I think this might be the end of Arc 5 and we move into Arc 6 Natalie or Arc 6 Ripley. So good. What a fucking chapter. I mean, let's be honest, fucked, but it's so good.
A personal hell for us all.
Oh yes. Themes.
My goodness. Okay. Obviously we skipped over the majority of Davy's villain monologue to the table, his saying of grace.
Yes, we did.
And I have a lot of it here. He's talking about a ballerina who I think it is reasonable to surmise might have been Valentina's mother. And he...
I didn't surmise that, but interesting.
It's a more close to a theory.
I can see the reading that gets you there, yeah.
And he is describing his understanding of love. I was captivated. It turned me around on those types of girls, on that hair, that destruction. I loved her sadness. I loved the display. I loved her. I was transformed. And I've carried that with me ever since. Love. It transforms. It defies. And through a lot of this, there's these wild jumps between things that I think are we could even call them accurate, even call them true. The idea of love as transformative and as something that makes you behave despite things and justify things you otherwise wouldn't. I think that is accurate of much of our cast. The way that he is understanding love, this emphasis on the despite, on the destruction, on the sadness, on the display, the performance, it gives the impression that what he's really there for is that destruction. And you will love me for it. It'll be performative at first. You'll play the part, act it out, and you'll have moments you aren't even sure if the act is real or if it's an act. You'll wonder, do you feel lovesick like some schoolgirl? Or is it the stomach-churning anxiety and constant obsession over the fact you're under the thumb of someone who could destroy everything you care about the moment he decides you're not useful anymore? You'll wonder about the void once you've served your purpose and satisfied me enough that I give you the go-ahead to retire. The gap in your life I once filled, you'll wonder if you miss it. That's what I'm after, I think, more than success or failure. The looks on your faces right now, that you'll thank me after I punish you in terrible ways, despite it all. That's love. That's power. Right, honey? You know what I'm talking about. And he turns to his wife, Tessa, who leans over to meet him smiling, and there was just a hint of a strain to the smile before she kissed him.
That last bit is so perfect for the horror of everything he just said.
Just a reminder, it's everybody in the room. Yeah.
Yes.
Without exception.
It's not just you guys that have just arrived. Like, it's all of his family. It's all of, like, his staff. it's everyone around him.
Mm.
Oh,
and
just Jesus.
Well, love is a big theme throughout Claw, especially in the sense of possessiveness, which Davy has to an extreme. There's this question of does Natalie love Ripley or the idea of Camellia? Does Mia care about her kids, or does she need to demonstrate that she is superior and worthy of the love that she never got from her mom? Is Carson in love? Is he loyal, or is he just tricking himself into like a mirage, an illusion of through curiosity and challenges to himself? And Davy provides a maximalism of that, a world where love is just the pain that goes into it. And if you maximize the pain, you maximize the love. And it's so important to look to Valentina in this, because Valentina knows this. She gets a hug from one of Davy's captured victims, and it means a lot to her. And she recognizes in Davy's younger brother this sort of love, this pride in the pain, the need for it to have meant something. And as far as claws go, that this emphasis on holding something and commanding it, controlling it, owning it, the reciprocal would be letting it go. And there's the reason there's no solution in the problems that exist for our characters is that none of them can have all of what they want without letting go of something that they want. Mia would need to let go of her mental model of Natalie as someone deserving of the crime and injury that Mia inflicted on her in order to be the kind of person that Valentina would respect enough to support in her decision to have stolen Ripley in the first place. And like Valentina is ultimately the only character thus far that I can think of that has demonstrated the ability to let go. It's even for someone that she hated for very good reasons, let Addie escape. And well, not so much escape as just sort of let her be carted off out of her hands.
Do not take the immediate vengeance upon her.
Yes,
letting the vengeance go.
It is a start.
It's something.
And we previously spoke about Davy as the patriarch, parent as ruler, king of the home, this martial quality that would be the reciprocal of what Mia has been doing for Ripley, providing her space, nurturing, incentivizing good deeds, bringing out the best. And that it is Carson and Mia's parenting of Ripley that allows her to escape the shackles that are holding onto her, the handcuffs, even left-handed. And she does this with people that are willing to help and be close and hold things, but only as part of that operation, is, I think, the first sign of what it is that Davy needs to be beaten by. At some point in this chapter, it stops being clear that Davy's just a guy. Like, it's so important in his description that he's so normal. He's a really regular looking dude. And all of this intimidation and these threats and going through on those threats and the abuse and injury, all of it creates a reputation and a power that is making people, even when they're not being compelled, move in compulsion. They don't know if they're playing the part or acting it out. They don't know if the act is real or if it's an act. And together in the basement as they escape, it's unclear whether the love that Ripley and Natalie are showing for one another is sheer urgency, like the need to get out of there and common cause, or if it's real love, or if it will build a true rapport. But it is something to love people for rather than to love them despite. And there's not a lot to love Davy for. So I think the benefit of this articulation is that we have a for and against version of love, a domineering one and a nurturing one, and that's pretty classically gender binaried. But I think Carson's guiding hand in Ripley doing the lockpicking here serves to move it out of that gendered initial framework.
Absolutely.
And I really, really think that the most likely thing to happen is that once Davy is sufficiently ill-equipped, things just sort of collapse around him. I don't know if it's someone pulling a gun on him and shooting him because he just has a beating heart. I don't know if it's the signal goes down or a drone fires on him, but it is really clear that because he is totally an against kind of person, like the only way that he is earning love is through despite. I didn't hit you when I could have, and you know that I could have, that kind of thing. The natural reciprocal is just when he is no longer able to follow through on these threats, who first has the courage to resist him once more. And right now it's Natalie and Ripley, but of course, like our whole team, our whole cast is aligned in this, like, in a major way, out of love for one another, even though they're not well balanced in who they love and who they most certainly don't. In this monologue is the format for what needs to be defeated and its weaknesses. So yeah, I hope that we've sort of seen the dragon's hide, and now we'll get to see it being pierced.
Fingers crossed, eh? Oh, okay. Shall we do some bold and specific predictions?
I think that Ripley will elect to save Natalie when she could have escaped on her own, causing both to be recaptured.
And I hate that prediction.
I just thought I'd say something terrible, because, it's everything's so bad already, why not make it a little worse?
It's so... I really hope not. I've written one down here, but I actually have a second one that I just thought of recently. So I'll say the new one first, which is, I actually genuinely think that Ben and Natalie will end up together at the end. I think that's a ship that I can get behind. It's been a while since we've done any shipping discourse, and I think...
Kippos.
I think
You're joining me on the shipping shipper. Discourse?
I am.
Wow,
I'm all in on Battley.
This episode has just been up and down for me emotionally, side to side. I mean, I can hardly stand it.
I'm so sorry.
Also, your ship is trash, but I don't care about that part.
Okay, all right.
That's
We're really getting into the discourse.
That's part of the fun.
That's part of the fun. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's a heterosexual ship. I'm on.
Hey, that's not my problem. My problem is that I really appreciate that they're platonic. I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, that's fair.
That there's
I think it is
a friendship that is so much integrity, and I'm a big fan of. As far as Ben raising Sterling, I would love it if he didn't have to be married to Natalie to serve that role. So but yeah, I guess it makes sense. I suppose.
I see where you're coming from, but I'm a Battley shipper.
You don't even like Ben. How could this be?
I don't really like Natalie either.
Oh, I see.
I think they're perfect. Yeah. So my BS prediction is that they've snuck Ryder in as one of those police hanging outside, and he's going to go Bolden on their asses and swoop in to rescue the girls. And that other random kid, Brian. I was careful in the notes to pull the characters' names. Yeah.
And we've got Olive, the youngest daughter. We've got Tessa, Davy's wife. And I think quite crucially, we don't know Davy's eldest son's name. I went back to 3.3. I Control-F'd it. I really tried to find it. He's only ever referred to as her brother. So if it's
not even in Arc 1?
I genuinely can't find it. And if any listener finds it and would like to tell me that I am a poor investigator, I would like to cite Ben as a bad influence.
Yeah, and we'll pop it in next week's mentions and corrections if someone does find the mention of his name.
Speaking of mentions and corrections.
Yeah, perfect. So here's a mention. Amanda Avila, aka FIP Industries, really captured Ben and Mia's argument from last chapter, and Natalie and Ripley's conversation at the beginning of this chapter in her fan art that she did.
The links are in the episode description alongside Rid Toms from last week. And it was funny because these two pictures were posted separately, so on different Tumblrs. So as we were prepping this episode, we thought that Amanda and FIP Industries were two different people. And we both come to the table of like, wow, I really like this fan art. Like, oh yeah, I really like this fan art too. So shout out to being prolific.
Yeah, thanks for the fan art for Claw, guys. It's really cool. I'm kind of sad that Claw hasn't been getting too much fan art, so it's always a blast to see it. Yeah. Okay. So, discussion question. Last week, we asked...
What's an aphorism that you enjoy? Normal Non-Eldritch Guy provided, people have always been people. As a casual enjoyer of history, the fact that we have had ancient graffiti from all over that is versions of X was here is great. Also, they found a dick scratched into a wall in Pompeii. Fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like the graffiti in Pompeii is so classic of people have always, because it's exactly the kind of thing that you can walk down to a local skate park and see a 14-year-old having scrolled onto a wall there. 40i2 brings Hanlon's razor, which is never a tribute to malice, that which is adequately explained by stupidity. It's a rule of thumb, but yeah, sometimes people are too quick to point out malice, while sometimes people being stupid or wrong is just what has happened.
There is a world where I had enough malice to not pull this quote and let it be my quote, but instead I changed what my aphorism was because I'm not that stupid.
Right.
But I'm a big fan of logical razors as a part of a project. While I was filling out a calendar for a Christmas present last year, I filled every month with a collection of weird and niche razors, and had to make up a couple dozen. I just really like this first concept of having a guiding principle that is, pithy and fun to say. So I'd like to shout out Newton's flaming laser sword, which is
that sounds like a real one.
It's an academic idea. There's a full paper written on it. It was actually one of the ones I didn't have to make up.
Wow.
It's that which cannot be resolved by argument or by research is not worth discussing.
Wow, I like that. My favorite theorem is Harry Ball theorem, and that's a genuine one.
You gonna explain that one, or is that just throwing it out there?
Just throwing it out there. It's a fun little mathematical theorem. People can go look it up.
Okay, well, I'll read these next two. Sweet Manzana said that they've always liked this thing their grandma used to say, and I have done absolutely no Spanish, so...
you were going to butcher this.
Más sabe el diablo por viejo que por diablo. I hope I got the J as a Y right, which is, the devil knows more from his age than being the devil. Which was just a way to tell me she was right because she was old, but it sounds cool.
It does sound really cool.
And my Paulus says, I say the world is a vampire several times a day in response to mildest inconveniences. Does that count? And it does.
And I really have to go listen to that song because it's a good song.
I've only heard the Sting in a Neil Cicerega remix. So I don't actually know what the rest of the song goes like. I just know the world is a vampire.
Okay, I will link you the rest of the song because it's actually good. But I mean, anything Neil Cicerega is generally pretty amazing as well. So yeah, you're not missing out by
fantastic. Good to know.
Neil Cicerega. So Ripperlete says they've always liked the phrase "eat your cake and have it too," Mostly because have your cake and eat it too never made sense for them, because of course if you have your cake you can then eat it, but if you eat your cake first you can't have it. They like the phrase because they tend to bring it up when people use the lighter version. Plus there's probably some way to apply it to claw, but they can't think of it at the moment.
We'll do a special birthday episode with cake crusting on the claw on the profile pic. Beligtal Dante said, "Do not meddle in the affairs of dragons, for you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup." Which is very relevant to the dragon in this chapter and his culinary tastes.
Yeah, pretty. That's very, very relevant. Painfully relevant. Yeah. Tis a rat. Tasarawat says, all of these are from Discworld because they're a massive dork. Revenge is a wheel and it turns backwards. Humans need fantasy to be human, to be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. I really like that one, to be fair. That one's, probably one of my favorites. And sometimes it is better to light a flamethrower than curse the darkness. And an actual regional phrase from where they grew up, which is great, is "you're not so green as cabbage looking." Which probably just means you're not as naive as you look, as cabbage head apparently used to be an insult implying stupidity. However, they always understood it as you're not naive, you're just ugly. / look like a cabbage, which is pretty fun. Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's good.
What's your aphorism, Kip?
So aphorisms are hard. I have an anti-aphorism that I really love, which is "a little bit of pain never hurt anyone." And I say it all the time. And I sometimes swap out "a little bit of pain" to be like "a little bit of water never hurt anyone," or, anything. But pain is my favorite one. It's not quite an aphorism, but it's genuinely something that I think of like when I'm in like mild pain. It's just like, you can get through it. You can, it sucks, but you can deal with things. Yeah.
I have a quote from Brennan Lee Mulligan, who was in turn quoting a professor of his. It's sort of an aphorism on either side, so you can take whichever one you want as verbose or simple. On the level of individuals and civilization, personality predates ideology. Meaning, before you were a fascist, you were a bully and an asshole.
Yeah, I like that quote. It feels very real.
I feel like Davey demonstrates,
Yeah, I really... Yeah, he really does. So, this week's discussion question is...
What unlikely skill do you have that would help in a situation like Nat and Rips?
Yeah, so like the fact that like Natalie could just like pull out like, here's the therapy you do if you have phantom limb syndrome. And Ripley obviously being a little beast with a pair of lockpicks, with a set of lockpicks. Yeah. So yeah. What do you have that's kind of like that would help out?
Well, you and I could just podcast to pass the time. Does that count?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, now no one in the comments can say talking. I'm so sorry.
Perfect. And we wouldn't even have to edit the podcast. That's the worst part about podcasting.
So true. And we wouldn't have any latency issues.
Oh, amazing. So, yeah, thanks for listening to the episode, everyone. This is our outro.
Check out Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. This is his dinner party. We're just lending a hand.
And you're a monster for writing that one. Please give us a rating and a review on the podcatcher of your choice.
If you want to chat to us about the show or follow along with live reads, check out our channel on the Doof Media Discord. Find the invite link at doofmedia.com/Discord.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye for now.